Right. What is business organizations, guys? Now, organization is there now. Normally, organization is a collection of people working together to achieve a common task is there now, guys. That is known as organization. Now, if you take your school, an organization, that is also an organization. Why? A collection of people, the teachers, students, the principal, collection of people working together, all are working together to achieve a common goal. No,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
to provide quality education for students, right? And also to provide quality education for students in order to create good citizens for the country. So that is organizations. So when you come to this, right? So we need to discuss about basic information on the types of business organizations. So what is organization? An organization is a collection of people working together to achieve a common task. For instance, right now here we are going to look into business organizations. When the population of a country increases, the process of manufacturing and distributing goods and services expands. Yeah, we know that. So when the population of a country increases, the goods and services expands. Why? The consumption or the demand for the goods and services increase. As a result, the manufacturing and distribution of goods and services also increases. Therefore, different types of business organizations are established in order to fulfill the needs and wants of people. So we have studied what are needs and what are wants, right? So needs are the basic requirements for the survival of human beings, and wants are the different ways of satisfying human needs. For an example, if you take food, it is a need, and wants rice, pizza, kottu, right? Like that, you can different ways you can satisfy the needs. A business organization generally consists of an individual or a group of individuals, right? It could be individual or a group of individuals working together. I told this definition before also. All of them need to work together. Why? To produce goods and services required to fulfill human needs and wants. Why are the individuals working together, guys? In order to produce goods and services. Why? To fulfill human needs and wants, because we need to fulfill human needs and wants in order to run a business, right? We need to fulfill the human needs and wants, right? Different parties provides funds to businesses. Yeah, we know that, right? Different parties provides funds to a businesses. Owners of a business are the individuals or groups who provide the funds and assume the risk by involving in business, right? So based on the ownership, businesses are categorized into several categories. So based on the ownership, we can categorize the business into several categories. In addition, businesses are conducted to achieve different objectives of the businessman. Yeah, so businesses are conducted to achieve different objectives of the businessman. So businessmen have different objectives, no guys. So the business need to achieve those objectives. Then only the businessman will be satisfied with the business what he or she is doing. Accordingly, some businesses are carried out to earn profits, where others are carried out for the well-being of the society. So we studied this. A business can be for profit or non-profit motive, right? It could be for profit or non-profit motive. So it can earn profits or it can be carried out for the well-being of the society. Right, moving on. Further, a businessman can start either a small scale business or a large scale business. So, a business can be started as a small scale business or a large scale business, right? Small scale or a large scale business, depending on the amount of resources that he has. So, if the amount of resources are more, you can have a large scale business, and if the amount of resources are less, you can have a small scale business, right? We'll see. Out of different types of business organization, businessman should be clever enough to choose an appropriate type. So the businessman should be enough to create an appropriate type out of the uh, different types of business organizations, right? Now let us see some classifications of business organizations, guys. So businesses are organized in different ways. So now what we are going to look, we are going to look into classification of business organizations. Businesses are organized in different ways. These different types of business organizations can be classified as follow. follows depending on various criteria. So we can classify the businesses into various, right? Classified as follows depending on various criteria. First one is based on ownership. Based on ownership, we can classify the business organizations, guys. Other one based on the objective, we can classify. Next, based on the scale. So now we are going to discuss one by one. One by one, we are going to discuss. So nothing to worry. So first discussion is going to be classification of business organizations based on the ownership. So based on the ownership, how can we classify the business organization? So we'll look into that now, guys. So we have already studied in the second lesson who are owners. So I'm not going to repeat. So we are going to move on. The owners are the individuals who provides funds for the business. Yeah, obviously. If there are no owners, there are no business. Why? In order to start a business, in order to commence a business, and in order to continue the running procedure of the business, you need funds. So the owners are the individuals who provides funds for the business and assume risks by involving in it. The owners, right? The owners enjoy the profits earned by the business and bear the losses of the business as well. The owners, they enjoy the profits as well as bear the losses. So if you are conducting a business, you can't just only expect profits. So if there are losses, you also must learn to bear the losses. So that's the business. You have ups and downs. So accordingly, business organizations can be categorized as follows based on their ownership. So based on the ownerships, we can categorize the business organizations into two. One is private sector business organizations and the other one is public sector business organizations. Right. Let us move on and see the difference between private sector and public sector. In figure 3.1 depicts following different ways of classifying business organizations under about two sectors based on ownership. So based on the ownership, the business organizations can be classified into private sector and public sector, right? Private sector and public sector. Private sector is basically owned by the individuals, people, and public sector is owned by the government, right? So if you take the private sector, you have some examples given. Sole proprietorship is an example for a private sector business organization. Then partnership, then incorporated companies, then cooperative societies, then other associations. So now you may be wondering, so what are these? So nothing to worry. I will be explaining the definitions of them in the upcoming uh, explanations. So the public sector, businesses under the central government, provincial councils and local government institutions comes under the public sector, right? So anything owned by the government comes under basically under the public sector. For an example, departments, you have departments, right? Then you have state corporations, you have state companies. So these will be the examples coming under business organizations, right? And so first let us have the discussion, then we can write the note. Okay, so next let us move on to private sector business organization. So what is this private sector business organization, guys? We must know that businesses owned by an individual or a group of individuals. It can be one person, the business may be owned by one person or more than one person, are known as private sector businesses. So in your exam, they can simply ask what is private sector business. So you must say businesses owned by an individual or a group of individuals are known as private sector businesses, right? Moving forward, private sector businesses can be further classified as sole proprietorship, partnership, incorporated companies, cooperative societies, and other associations. So you can further classify the private sector business organizations into what? Sole proprietorship, partnership, incorporated companies, cooperative societies, and other associations. So that is private sector business organization. So are you all clear with the private sector business organization?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. Good. So let us move on to discuss the public sector business organizations now. So public sector business organizations, they are now, guys, the businesses funded and owned by the government are public sector business organizations. As simple it is. So anything that is owned by the government, it is going to be public sector business organization. State departments, right? State corporations, state companies, business registered and on under provincial councils and local government institutions are the different types of business organizations in the public sector. So these organizations will be coming and falling under the public sector business organizations. Moving forward, right, let us have a discussion on classification of business. Now we can classify, one is based on ownership. Now we are going to classify the business organization based on the objective. Based on the objective, how can we classify the business organization, right? So now let us look into that. So different organizations are established to achieve different objectives, right? So businesses are also conducted by its owners to achieve an objective. So there are different objectives. So businesses can be classified as based on its objectives. So based on the objectives, the businesses can be classified into two. One is for profit businesses and the other one is not for profit businesses. So the figure 3.2 depicts the classification of business organizations based on the objective, right? So now based on the ownership be classified, now we are going to classify the business based on the objectives, right? So based on that, the first example, based on the objective, the first classification is going to be for profit businesses, for profit businesses. So the for profit businesses can be further classified into two, private and public. That means what? Private means anything owned by individuals or group of individuals. So that is example, sole proprietorship, partnership, incorporated companies. So these three will fall under private, right? So private profit businesses. Then public. If you take the state companies, even though it is a public, right, public on, still it is making profit. So therefore we need to classify the state companies under private. Therefore we need to classify the state companies under public profit business, right? So business organizations classified into two, for profit businesses and not for profit businesses. Under that, profit businesses can be further classified into two as private and public. Then private, not for profit businesses can be classified into two, private and public. So if you take private, cooperative societies and other associations falls under the private, and state corporations and departments falls under the public, not for profit businesses, right? So is this diagram clear for everyone? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right. Next, we see what is this for profit businesses. What is this for profit businesses? Now when the main objective of the business is to earn profit, when the main objective of the business is to earn profit, guys, they are known as profit oriented businesses. So this type of businesses are operated under both private sector and public sector. Even public sector also has what? Profit motive businesses, right? So what is profit businesses? When the main objective, the thing you need to remember is main objective of the business is to earn profits, they are known as profit oriented businesses. So this type of businesses are operated under both private sector and public sector. For an example, some people will think that profit means only private. No, guys, even public sector also can be taken, right? For an example, state companies. Next example is not for profit businesses. That means when the main objective of the business is to ensure welfare of members but not to earn profit, then we call that as not for profit businesses. The main objective of these businesses is to ensure welfare of members and the society, guys. Not for profit businesses are also conducted both under private sector and public sector. Some people think not for profit means only public. No, there are also some private organizations that runs their businesses not for profit as not for profit businesses, right? So is that clear? For profit businesses and not for profit businesses? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Up to now, do you have any questions?
No. No, sir.
Then another classification of this is of classification of business organizations based on the scale. So based on the scale also you can classify the business, right? The scale of a business organization depends on different criteria. Some of the criteria used are as follows. For an example, so using the various criteria means அளவுகோல்கள். Using those criteria only you classify the businesses based on the scale. So let us see the first criteria, that is amount of capital invested in a business. Next one, number of employees. Next one, amount of the energy used. Next one, market can be categorized into two parts. One is small and medium scale businesses and large scale businesses. So these are the criteria that are used to classify the businesses. Amount of capital invested, so that means how much the capital the owner has invested. Number of employees, so how many employees are working in the organization, that is one criteria. Next criteria is amount of the energy used. Fourth one is market share of the business, so that is also one criteria. Now based on the scale, business organizations can be categorized into two parts. Based on the scale, we can classify the business organizations into two, that is small and medium scale businesses and large scale businesses. Small and medium scale businesses and large scale businesses. So business organizations, small and medium scale businesses, large scale businesses. So you can see the classification in this figure 3.3, right? Small and medium scale businesses and large scale businesses. So let us look into what is the small and medium scale businesses, right? Different institutions have identified different criteria in classifying small and medium scale businesses. So accordingly, businesses with a small amount of capital invested. So if a business has invested small amount of capital, right, and with a small number of employees and having a small market share and having a small market share, receiving relative to large scale businesses are known as small and medium scale businesses. That means if you have if the owners have invested small amount of capital and if less number of employees are working and having a small market share relative when you compare to a large scale businesses, then we call that as small and medium scale businesses. Now for an example, they have given business employing less than 25 employees according to census and statistics department are considered as small scale businesses, right? So in Sri Lanka, so if the employees are less than 25, that is what type of business? Small and medium scale business. It falls under the category of small and medium scale business. Now, for an example, there is a company employing 50 employees. Will it come under small and medium scale? Yes or no?
No.
No, sir.
No, it won't come. Right. Right. Next, let us move on to large scale businesses. So large scale businesses means, guys, businesses that have invested a large amount of capital. If the owners or the investors have invested a large amount of capital and have employed a large number of large number of employees, have a large market share and have the ability to influence the respective a factory employing a large number of workers. A factory employing a large number of workers can be an example for a large scale businesses, right? Large scale businesses. So is that clear?